Because I've tried to do it myself in the past with a dog, this is 10 years ago, and it was a complete disaster. It was a big waste of time in the end.
You tried that as well?
Yeah.
Me too.
Did you?
It didn't work well.
There we go, see?
Exactly.
We've got to work with someone who knows what they're doing.
Welcome to the Future for Nature podcast. Every year, 3 exceptional young conservationists, all under the age of 35, coming from some of the most wild and remote places on Earth, are selected out of hundreds of applicants to receive the Future for Nature award, which comes with a €50,000 prize to go towards protecting and conserving the natural world. Over time, as they've grown in number into a Future for Nature family, these young conservationists have drawn on the many lessons learned from their vastly different backgrounds, countries, cultures, and the species they protect, to offer support and learn from one another. In this podcast, you'll hear them discuss some of the issues closest to their hearts and share in-depth knowledge from the field. Today, we'll be hearing from Rebecca and Caesar about how to use the many talents of man's best friend, the domestic dog, to use in the world of conservation.
Hi, this is Caesar. I'm a conservationist from Bangladesh. I work on species conservation. I work with tortoises, pangolins, gibbons.
And I'm Rebecca. I work with sloths in Costa Rica.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. I'm excited to learn about your work
Sure.
with the dogs.
All right.
Shall we begin?
Yeah. So can you tell me about how the dog contributes to your conservation work, and what do the dog in your project does to the conservation that like humans can't?
Yes. So I work with sloths, and the problem with sloths is that they're really hard to see because they live up at the tops of the trees in really dense rainforests. So collecting any data on them observationally is really difficult. And one of the things that we're really trying to do in Costa Rica is we're trying to count how many sloths there are, because nobody has ever done that. There's never been a population census for sloths anywhere in the world. And that's the reason why, is because they're so hard to see. So I came up with this idea that we could use dogs, because sloths have a very strange habit of pooping on the ground. They don't poop from the tree.
Correct.
They actually bury their scat. And so if we can train a dog to detect the scat of the sloths, then we could theoretically be able to determine how many sloths are living in a particular area, and also collect samples, of genetics and other things, like you can tell the stress levels from scat. So we started training a dog a few years ago to do this, and it's been a little bit of a roller coaster of a journey. But yeah, she's currently helping us out in the jungle. Trying to count sloths is essentially her job.
Awesome. So basically, it's a non-invasive method. Like the dog's not counting directly the sloth, but the fecal
Exactly.
pieces, and that help you
Yes.
gather more information.
What we're trying to do is it's a bit complicated, but essentially we cover an area with the dog, and then we collect all the sloth poop we find. We put it all in a big
Awesome.
bag, and then we dry it and we weigh it.
And I imagine it'd be very difficult for a human to.
Oh, smell the scat. Yeah, impossible. And also they bury it. So I've spent a lot of hours in my life trying to find sloth poop just by digging around at the base of trees. And sometimes I can find it, but the dog leads us right to it.
Systematic way.
Yeah, exactly. So, and she can cover huge areas much quicker than a human can, and she's much more accurate. So, she's got a very important job.
Awesome.
Okay. Caesar, tell me what and how the dog contributes to your conservation work. What does the dog do that humans can't?
Sure. So in my project, basically I work with species like tortoises, pangolins, which are very difficult to find and do survey or estimate population using the traditional method like camera trapping or scat survey or fecal survey. Like how do the tortoises wouldn't come in the camera trap, and how would you find tortoise scat? So those are the species which are very difficult to study, and dogs help us finding those animals. And for example, we're doing
Fly and
tortoise reintroduction, and we're doing, and of course, finding in the population that how many tortoises are left, or even pangolins are very, very difficult to find. So in the communities, they use their dogs to poach, to hunt those tortoise and pangolin. And by what exactly we're doing that, using the dog to conserve the species. So the dogs would enable us to find or basically do survey in the field for tortoises and pangolins.
So the dogs actually sniffs the animal, not the
Absolutely.
scat.
Yeah. And we can use scat as well for if you want to do a particular study. But for now, we are looking for a specific animal, and the dogs would find them. We could capture them, mark them, and also recapture them and have a understanding of the population. It's a long-term process, but and it's almost impossible for humans to find the tortoises. Like it would be coming very not in a systematic manner. You can run into tortoises, but
Yeah. So if you go out into the jungle with your dog, how long would it take you to find a pangolin or a tortoise?
Well, I have you could spend days and weeks and months. You might not find the tortoises and pangolins as well. Those are very difficult to see animal. It's not like African savanna.
Yeah.
The tropical forest, it's very difficult. Of course, you can find pangolins in other way, like really tracking them with their claw mark, and also find them burrow and put the camera trap. But it's a more systematic method, and you can really measure the effort.
Yeah.
And of course, and as if we have different methods, it really increase our it makes the study more robust, I believe.
Yeah.
But for tortoises, it's almost impossible to find by human.
Okay, so this question is, can you introduce us to conservation dogs Clive and Keisha? What are their unique personalities? So tell me about Clive.
Okay, so Clive is right now about over 4 years old. He's a black Labrador. He was born in Poland, and then he was shipped to Netherlands. The trainer Wesley of Scent Imprint Conservation Dogs. So he was trained in Netherlands for over 2 years, and his funny story. His original name was Kelvin. So the NGO called Global Conservation Force, they are based in the States, and they sponsored dogs. So the person who sponsored Clive had a black lab named Clive. So they sponsored, and so that's why they named Kelvin Clive. So
that's nice.
Yeah, and Clive has been trained to find tortoises and pangolins, and he was shipped to Bangladesh, and it's like over a year and a half ago, just over a year last August.
God, so he's gone from Poland to the Netherlands to Bangladesh. He's like a globe.
Yeah, and dog. Poland, in Netherlands, you cannot bring a dog before they're 4 months old.
Yeah.
So they had to wait until he's 4 months old, and he traveled by bus, and then.
So was he born to be a detection dog?
Yeah, so he's coming from that bloodline of hunting dogs in Poland. So his whole family, his siblings, his father, they're all kind of champion in a lot of those hunting trail.
So he's got the good genes.
Yeah. So so they are basically used as a gun dog.
Interesting. And then how did you train him on pangolins and tortoises specifically?
Okay, so it's really interesting. So I think first of all, they select the dog which has high drive, and I know that these are not hunting dogs. Like in a lot of those in the forest areas, a lot of local communities have those tribal hunting dogs, which are basically they hunt for the animal. But these dogs have a very high play drive, which is basically all they want to do is play the ball. So that's their motivation. Of course, you can motivate them by treats, but toy is it's a big motivation for them. So initially, when they select the dog from the good bloodline, and then they test it for that drive, and when they see that dog has that initial drive, so they after the selection they train them. So first what they do is a box training method. So first they bring a bunch of box to the dog, and they put treats. So they let the dog interest in the box. So the dog would go and sniff in the box and find food. So that's the initial method. So when they're used to go, and because they know the box has treats, so they would go to the box and they would sniff it.
Yeah.
And the next step, when they're used to that, they put the boxes, and they put, let's say they put 3 boxes, and one box has smell of the dog. It could be a live animal. It could be just a smell. It could just, piece of cloth that you put together with a tortoise or dog.
I see. So you don't need to actually use a live tortoise.
Yeah. I mean, tortoise in our case can be placed in a box. They can be small,
easy,
but for
yeah.
pangolin or sloth, you cannot put them in a box. And I mean, you can, but yeah,
Wouldn't recommend it.
exactly. So, yep, you have to basically wear gloves because they are very
The smell.
sensitive. Make
Yeah.
sure that you don't contaminate your smell. Once you put, once they're used to the box, you put that particular smell of that target species you want to train and let the dog sniff. And the moment the dog pay attention to the target smell, he'll either click or do a marking like say yes, and you give him the treat or the ball.
Yeah.
And then they show the interest, and that's condition them, okay, if that smell means reward for me,
Yeah.
that's the basic. And then you make it more complex, and then once the box training is done, you hide the smell in the forest.
So did you have to work with a zoo in the Netherlands to do that, to get the animals?
Yes, so that has been interesting for tortoises. What was done, basically, we had to work in the zoo in Germany, and we had to there is a particular tube, basically, that can store smell. What you do, you put the tube with the animal a few days, and then you and the tube can keep
Absorbs the odor.
Yeah, and then for a few months, and you put in a airtight container. Yeah, so we had to ask the zoo in Germany. They have pangolin, and then they send the smell, and the smell wouldn't last more than a few months or less.
Yeah.
So it was quite tricky, and they would send that smell to our trainer in the Netherlands, and that's how it's trained. Same as for tortoise. There is a zoo in Netherlands that had similar species, but they was trained,
Yeah. It's very similar. So with Keisha, this is our Keisha.
Yeah. She looks like
the same as Clive.
Probably. So yeah, tell me about Keisha as well.
So we did it a slightly different method. We're working with an organization called Working Dogs for Conservation in the United States, and what they do is it's very similar. I mean, I know you already described that these dogs, to be detection dogs, they need to have a really high drive.
Mm-hmm.
And typically play drive is the best option.
Yeah.
So as you probably know with Clive, these dogs are a little bit difficult to live with because they're very high energy. So a lot of times these dogs end up in rescue shelters because people get them as pets. They just can't deal with the energy and they get taken to the shelter. So this organization goes around shelters and searches for dogs that have been abandoned or given up that have those personality traits. They take them, they rescue them, and they train them as detection dogs and place them with NGOs around the world.
So giving a second chance. Exactly.
So that was the plan, was to do that, but we actually never had to, because what happened is we had a dog trainer from the organization come to Costa Rica, because first they wanted to see what the environment was like.
Right.
The jungle's very dense, it's very humid, it's a very difficult place to work. So they needed to do a site visit to understand all of that. And when they were there and they were working with the person who was going to be our dog handler, they discovered that her pet dog that she'd actually rescued off the street a couple of years earlier had all of these personality traits already.
Okay. High drive.
Super high drive. She's psychotic, this dog. Anyway, I love her, but she's crazy. So we began training her instead, and it's been difficult because she wasn't bred for it. So she's got 90% of the traits, but not all of them.
Okay.
And it's worked really well, actually. This has been going for about 3 years now, and she's now fully part of Team Sloth, but she's run into so many hurdles along the way.
And how long she was trained?
She's been trained over 3 years. Actually, it took her about a year to get fully trained.
Right.
And then she started working, but then she got numerous sort of sicknesses and injuries along the way. So she had to stop training and then get retrained. And it's been a little bit of a backwards and forwards. And actually what we're doing now is we're bringing in a second dog as backup for Keisha, because Keisha's got some problems with our health. So we've got a dog called Moose coming to join.
Oh, wow. And how old is Keisha now?
Keisha's 6. So she's also, for a working dog.
Yeah. So I think maybe usually they retire like in 7 or 8.
Yeah.
So
Moose is coming in to take over, and Moose is again from working dogs. He was rescued in the US though, and they're training him right now in Montana using scat from sloths in a zoo.
Awesome.
Yeah, so there's that whole imprinting process going on. And
And how old is Moose?
he is 4.
Okay.
So he's also not super young, but he's
But
yeah,
yeah, I think
he's a smaller dog, so he's also got a longer.
yeah, but what I've seen that, like when the dogs are like 2, they're still young, and
Yeah.
I've seen that older dogs like around 4,
That's
they're
when they
more
really
mature,
get
and
good,
they become like the search machine. So
Yeah,
I think with
exactly.
age, like, and if you can easily work until he's 9 or 10 if he
Yeah.
doesn't have health issues.
And we've learned that actually a smaller dog in the jungle is better because Keisha, as much as I love her, she's quite big. She's big boned. She's a mix of a lab and an American Stafford, and she overheats and she gets tired so quickly. Whereas having a little energetic spaniel binging around, we think is going to work a little bit better. So
Yeah, I mean, excited to know more about Moose, and I hope Kisha gets better, and then yeah. But that this conservation dog has been kind of a new thing, and then a lot of projects are picking it up, and I know that many different researchers or scientists and many people around the world are interested in like how to start having conservation dog in their project. So do you have any tips to share, like how someone can start having dogs in a project, and what's the process like?
I mean, my tip would be to work,
start basically.
Yeah, to work with an organization who knows what they're doing. We've both used very different organizations, but they've both done very well for us. And
Sure.
I know some people who've tried to do it themselves, and it's really difficult. Like, it's a whole skill, isn't it? Knowing about odor detection and the little micro signals from the dog that you need to understand in order to read their behavior and what they're trying to tell you, and really make this scientifically accurate. I think working with qualified people who can help is the number one tip.
So basically, finding the organization that basically do the
Does this.
conservation dog, and
or an individual, a trainer, like somebody who knows, like trying to do it yourself. Because I've tried to do it myself in the past with a dog, and this is 10 years ago, and it was a complete disaster. It was a big waste of time in the end.
You tried that as well?
Yeah.
Me too.
Did you?
It didn't work well.
There we go. See,
Exactly.
we've got to work with someone who knows what they're doing.
And I also learned through my process that it's a different field itself.
Yeah.
It's not like, okay, I like dogs, I know how to train them to sit and fetch. It's a different field.
Like the fact that odor on a hill will travel, and like whether it's rained or not determines the odor detection distance, and all these different like things that go into just how you need to like.
So I agree that finding the right people or individual organization is the first thing. But then what else? Like, what do you think? Like, I know that every method has its limit. I know that people love dogs, but what other factors we need to consider before having a dog in a project?
Well, now I'd say the health of the dog, because it was found out that Keisha has a degenerative bone condition. So she's run into a lot of injuries and having surgeries. So I'd also think about that, get a full health screening of the dog so that you don't do what we've done and invest a lot of time and money in an animal who's then turned out to be not as effective as hoped. So and then also don't underestimate the money it takes to maintain a dog for the long term, for the life of its working life, really, like too expensive. You've got to have good food.
Yeah.
So.
And what do you feed the dogs?
We feed them raw dog food, like if we import it. It's like the top brand, high protein.
And those are expensive. They're not like typical.
Yeah.
And you have to have its kennel.
Its kennel, all of the toys, right? Because they're high play drive and they destroy every toy. Keisha has a whole bag, right? A bag, honestly, like this big, of all her favorite toys, and she always wants a specific toy to play with. So we have to go through all the toys and try and find the right one she wants. So she's like,
I think cost is also a factor. For example, for us, the dog in Bangladesh, like we feed a particular brand, and that brand is not available there. So sometimes, when I was in UK going back to Bangladesh, I carried like 15 kg dog food. Yeah, because we didn't find them. There
goes your luggage space.
And also the toy, like like the typical toys wouldn't work last minute. So you need to have those expensive toys. But I think the cost and the health of the dog is important.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, true or false? Dogs are not only effective in tracking and locating wildlife, but they also enhance public engagement and support for conservation initiatives.
True.
Yeah.
I think it attract interest people.
100%. I
Yes.
agree. People love sloths. They do love
Dogs.
sloths and they love dogs.
Yeah.
So, people love that combination.
So how do you ensure the well-being and safety of conservation dogs in the field?
Oh, this is so hard because of snakes in the jungle. It puts my heart in my mouth every time Keisha runs off into the jungle because it just takes one snake bite. We can't carry antivenom on us because it needs to be in the freezer. So every time she goes off, and we've got some really deadly snakes and a lot of them. So we've done snake avoidance training with her, but it's not guaranteed to work because a lot of the snakes, she's just not going to know they're there as she's running through. It's just preparing for the worst case scenario, always having an emergency action plan in place, making sure we've got as many medical supply kit items with us as we can logistically carry. And having a plan in case it happens.
So you have the antivenom for...
At the local vet clinic.
Yeah.
We can't have it in the field.
Yeah, so I think very similar. Exactly, kind of have the antivenom, but we did the evidence training as well. And of course, like in certain areas, it's not just snakes. There are other animals like wild boars are there, and they could just come and charge. So in areas that we kind of sense the danger, we usually use the leash. But not all the time. It's leash walking in the forest it's
hard.
Yeah, it's very difficult. But yeah, I think having the backup plan, and of course, I think...
And the bear bell. Do you have a bell?
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, because that would alarm all the predators, and yeah, I think, and of course, we kind of tend to do the more field work in the winter time.
Yeah.
When the snakes are not that active.
Yeah.
Which also in winter time things
Or
are
in
for
the
the
early
dogs.
morning.
Yeah.
Off the cards. What's Clive's detection signal? Does he bark or
No.
lie down?
He sits, but that not all the time he would be able to sleep. There could be some
Stick.
stick a bit slow. So what he does, he freezes, and he would just freezes, and he would just wag the tail. You could see his face. And
But does he look at you?
Yeah, he look at you, and
Yeah,
then look back the target, and very excited, and then he freezes, and then and he would sit if you wait, and then he would sit. But yeah.
Keisha barks, and she's got the most annoying bark. It's like that bark where you're like, gosh.
And he would know. And, yeah.
But it's great because in the dense forest, I can't see if she's lying down.
Yeah.
So, but we can hear her. So,
That's nice.
It's great.
And of course, when there's a bell, that when the bell stops,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
When the
because,
bell
like,
stops, he starts
something's happening.
something.
Yeah, or he's doing something.
Awesome. Well, it was so nice learning about Clive. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, we have one more question. The big one.
Yeah, right.
Oh, no. Let me read it. In one word or sentence, what would you say motivates you every day to fight for a future for nature?
I think nature itself. So whenever I'm in nature and I see nature like in its truest form, even here with the elephants and the lions, I'm really inspired. I'm very emotional and feel that connection with all the wildlife and nature. So nature and wildlife, that motivates me.
I would say hope for a better world because we're surrounded by so much negativity in our jobs all the time. We see the really dark, horrible side of what's happening to the natural world. And when I come to places like this, Africa, and we see wild animals thriving in protected areas, and then I meet all you guys, like the family, and see how everyone's doing positive things, that gives me so much hope for the future. And I think that's how I'm leaving here feeling so motivated because there are people doing incredible things and we can replicate that and just keep fighting.
Yeah, thank you for sharing about Keisha, and I got to learn a lot. And I'm wish you all the best with Moose.
Thank you.
And I know this is a process. I'm sure we'll figure it out. And let's continue doing
Hopefully our dogs can meet one day.
Yeah,
It'll be chaos.
All right.
Thank you for listening, everybody.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for sharing in our crazy dog journeys.
Yep.